go. Well, good day everyone. Welcome to week number 29 here in our 2025 Chronological Bible-in-a-Year Reading Challenge. Can you believe it? We are only 5 weeks away from finishing the Old Testament. So a major congratulations to you. The next 2 weeks we're going to be spending in Ezekiel, and I'm going to be doing my videos here from the Philippines. Actually, the first time that I've been able to come back here to the Philippines since the COVID years, and so very excited to be here for 2 weeks away in exile, as it were, as we are reading through the prophet Ezekiel. Well, Ezekiel has 48 chapters. We're basically splitting him in half, 24 chapters each week, and he's one of the 4 major prophets. Okay, we've already covered Isaiah and Jeremiah, who were both prophesying down in Judah in their respective time periods. Well, Ezekiel and Daniel are prophesying not in Judah. They are Jews, but they're prophesying way up north in Babylon. Okay, so we'll get to Daniel in a couple of weeks' time. Now, of course, it begs the question, well, how on earth are these Jewish boys way away, 1,500 kilometers away? It's about 3 to 4 months on foot. It's not just a simple flight like I've just done here to get to Manila. How did these guys get way out to Babylon? And of course, the answer to that question is that both Ezekiel and Daniel were part of the deportations courtesy of King Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, Nebuchadnezzar. Basically, there were 3 major waves of Jewish people taken away from Judah, away to Babylon during the last 3 kings of Judah. Okay, so King Jehoiakim, Nebuchadnezzar came in on the first year of being king of Babylon, and he took some people away, and it turns out that Daniel was part of that. The second to last king was Jehoiachin. Okay, he was only one of the 3-month kings, where Nebuchadnezzar personally laid siege but came to the temple, took items away. It turns out Daniel was part of that deportation, and of course Jeremiah, who wasn't deported, but still Jeremiah, the famous prophet that we've been covering, was part of the last king, King Zedekiah, who himself was taken away, and of course that's when the temple was destroyed. Okay, so basically what we're doing, we're looking at Ezekiel, and we're rewinding the clock just a little bit. Okay, so basically Ezekiel's prophecies, you see this in the opening verse, takes place about 4 or 5 years after Ezekiel was taken away. He has an encounter with God and his ministry begins. Okay, so I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have to rewind our brain a little bit. I know we've been reading a lot about the destruction of Jerusalem. More of it's coming. Okay, and you think, haven't we dealt with that? Well, no. By reading Ezekiel in big blocks like this, we're just rewinding the clock 5 years before the siege begins, that 2.5 year long siege. So we're rewinding the clock a little into that last king, King Zedekiah. Chapters this week we're reading basically cover that 5-year period. 5 years before Jerusalem was destroyed, right up to the siege. Okay, basically, so that 5-year period. The rest of the book, the second half of the book, covers 15 years. Okay, so Ezekiel covers a 20-year ministry period, and that's significant because, as we find out here in chapter 1, Ezekiel begins his ministry. He begins encountering God at the age of 30. In fact, the Hebrew there might even infer it took place on his 30th birthday, which is significant because Ezekiel is a priest, and the age of 30 is when priests begin to serve at the temple. Had Ezekiel had been in Jerusalem on his 30th birthday, he would have been welcomed into the temple as a priest, and guess what? He would have served for 20 years. Early retirement at 50, okay? Not a bad job. So there you go. So this is amazing. Ezekiel's prophetic ministry, 1,500 kilometers out north, took place at the same period of time. He should have been a priest in the temple at Jerusalem, and this is one of the reasons, I'll mention this again later probably, but one of the reasons that the temple plays a huge part in Ezekiel's ministry, even though he's way away from it. Okay, I think you're going to really love Ezekiel in the next couple of weeks. A couple of things I noticed as we read Ezekiel that just for you to pay your attention to. Number one, you'll be happy to know this, but Ezekiel is a very well organized book. Okay, it's very laid out very clearly. It's very easy to read. The chapter divisions, which weren't originally there, but still make a lot of sense. Okay, they're very well laid out. Many of the chapters or the prophecies often begin with Ezekiel saying, "The word of the Lord came to me." So it's sort of, oh, there you go, gets you in the grid to read what's coming next. Ezekiel doesn't tend to mix his genres. He doesn't actually include much narrative. It's pretty well 98%, something like that, is just prophecy and poetry of visions and encounters and revelations. The word of the Lord, prophetic laments come out. So it's really just one type of genre pretty well all the way through. And it's basically set out chronologically as well. Every now and again you'll have a timestamp in the 6th year or the 7th year or the 9th year. So unlike Jeremiah, that we sort of had to chop and change a little bit in the last couple of weeks, Ezekiel's laid out chronologically. So I really appreciate that, certainly with my linear thinking. That said, Ezekiel number 2 is also very mystical in his experiences, maybe more than any of the other prophets we've seen so far. His insights into encounters of glory in the mystic realm. He's given a scroll to eat. The hand of the Lord comes upon him. He says a man of fire lifts him up by the hair and takes him to Jerusalem. Okay, what? Takes him to Jerusalem? Was that literal? Was he physically there, or was he there in the spirit? Is this like Jesus, who was taken by Satan up on top of the temple and was told to jump off? Okay, so these are kind of mystical experiences. We're not exactly sure how it worked. Just read along and enjoy the ride, okay? And so he's very mystical in his encounters. He's also very, very creative in his communication. He uses props. We have seen a bit about this before, but you'll definitely pick this up this week. This week he actually takes some clay and he builds a model of Jerusalem. He lies on his side and he bakes a cake over a cow dung. Okay, this is all using props. He's the original pastor with props, prophet with props, right? And that's an Instagram feed, don't worry about it. And so he's prophesying over by using props. He's very big on that. He shaves his head into third parts to sort of describe how the people in Jerusalem will die in thirds. Okay, so he's very much into that, very creative guy. He's very similar to other prophets in his content, his visions of glory. He uses language very similar to Moses at Sinai and the Ark of the Covenant. He predicts a lot of judgment for Israel, of course, for Jerusalem, sorry. Of course, that's what's happening. But also there's hints of hope. You very much are going to pick that hope up this week, and very similar hope to Jeremiah and Isaiah and other prophets. He uses many of the same metaphors as other prophets. You're going to see, particularly at the end of our readings this week, him talking about Judah or Jerusalem being God's wife, and actually the kingdom of Israel, the old northern kingdom Samaria, being God's wife. These are two sisters that have committed adultery against him. Okay, so very much takes us way back to Hosea when he introduced the concept of God's wife. But Ezekiel is also quite unique in that he mainly prophesies to Jerusalem and Judah from a distance. I mean, the whole thing is about Jerusalem and Judah, but he's doing it, remember, from a distance, which means his primary audience are not those in the siege that's about to come. They're not those in Jerusalem and Judea like Jeremiah. He was prophesying right there on the ground. No. Ezekiel's audience are those who have been taken away in one of those deportations, those first 2 deportations, including Daniel, who was in that crowd, okay? Ezekiel has been taken away. That is who his audience are. Okay, and as I said right at the start, there's a very strong emphasis that makes Ezekiel unique on the temple and God's glory, which probably relates to the fact that he is a priest. All right, well, down in your notes below to help you out this week, I have laid out suggested reading schedule in 5 key chapter blocks. They're not even blocks. When I do this, often it's not about being even. It's about basically having a theme on those reading blocks. So if you're happy to do the readings in 5 blocks this week and take my suggestion, check that out down below. Otherwise, as I said, it's pretty easy reading. It's very exciting reading. I think you're going to be really engaged this week with Ezekiel. Those 24 chapters read really easy. It's quite exciting. We're sticking it in one book, which is also a bit of the relief. And while it's very simple to read, just be warned, a lot of content is out of this world. Very simple, very logical, but also a bit mystical. I'd really trust you enjoy that. Well, guys, I'm going to get away. I've got a whole bunch of ministry and exciting stuff here in the Philippines. Bless you heaps as you engage in your readings, and I'll catch you next week here in exile in Babylon. Okay, bye.